Okay, so where are we? Non-impairment of obligation in contract. When we say non-impairment of obligation in contract, the state should set an example of good faith among its constituents. It should not set aside its obligations from contracts by the exercise of its taxation power. Tax exemption granted under contract should not be honored and should not be cancelled by a unilateral government action. Ano yung example nito? For example, meron tayong PPP. No? What do we mean by PPP? When we say PPP, it's a public-private partnership contracts. So ito yung mga PPP na finifinance, no? Finifinance yan ng private organization, or in the private organization, ang magbe-benefit is public or the government. So, ngayon, yung mga contracts na yun, for instance, ina-exempt sila from paying taxes. May mga ganon, ano? So, yun. That's one of the limitations of the taxing power. Hindi nila pwedeng i-tax yun. Okay, how about free worship rule? When we say free, worship rules, when we say free worship rule, the Philippine government adopts free exercise of religion and does not subject to exercise to taxation. So, libre po ang mga religious sect. Okay, yung mga religious sect, hindi po sila nagbabayad ng tax. But take note, no? This exemption, however, does not extend to income from properties or activities of religious institution. The religious institution in general are exempt from tax. But the salaries of preacher, imam, anong tawag natin? Priest, pastor, basta yun, no? Ano ba ang tawag? Baka whatever, no? Kung ano ang tawag natin doon sa head ng mga religious sect. All their income is also subject to tax. Okay? So that's free worship rule. Next is we have exemption of religious or charitable entities. Okay, yung religious, yun yung kanina actually. Charitable entities. These are foundation, non-profit cemeteries, churches, and mosque from property taxes. So when we say ito yung mga foundation, non-profit cemeteries, churches, mosque, yan, property taxes yan. So meron kasi tayong mga property taxes and they are not subject to any property taxes. Yan ang sabi ng ating constitution. This constitutional limitation is intended to highlight the separation of religion and the states. To support freedom of religion, which was discussed a little earlier, the government should not favor any particular system of religion by appropriating public funds. Sorry, that's non-appropriation. When we say exemption of religious charitable institutions, so they exempt, no? They exempt property tax for this institution, no? So the Philippines follows the doctrine of use, wherein only properties actually devoted for religious, charitable, or educational activities are exempt from real property tax. Okay? So dapat owned siya ng religious sect. Otherwise, it's subject to RPT or real property tax. Okay? Okay, now, yung non-appropriation of public funds or property for the benefit of a church. So ito yung kanina, no? That it should be noted, no, that the government should not favor any particular religion or system of religion by appropriating public funds or property to support that religion, no? So next is exemption from taxes of the revenues and assets of non-profit. Non-stock educational institution. The Constitution recognized the necessity of education in state building by granting tax exemption on revenues and assets of non-profit educational institutions. Okay. Consistently with this constitutional recognition as the necessity, the NIRC or the National Internal Revenue Code also exempts government educational institution from income tax subject to private educational institution to a minimal 10% income tax. Kaya lang ito, Rule 30 ito sa NIRC, if I remember it right. May mga ano siya, may mga requirements ka, no? The non-stock non-profit educational institution, they need to submit a certain documents for them to prove that they are non-stock non-profit. Kasi from the word itself, kasi kung susundin natin yung DepEd and Shed order that only 10% of their revenues goes to the Board of Trustees. 70% goes to the salaries, wages, and benefits, and 20% is for the maintenance, MOOE, or maintenance and other operation of the school. So nonetheless, only 10% yung talagang income nila. Ngayon, if that is the case, ibig sabihin, 10% kaya merong minimal. Pero pag na-provide mo lahat yon, pwede kang ma-exempt for a while, ha? Okay, let's continue. So that's the exemption of non-stock, non-profit. Okay, next. Under constitutional limitations pa rin of taxation power, concurrence of a majority of Congress for the passage of law granting tax exemption. Okay. Tax exemption law counters against the lifeblood doctrine as it deprives the government of revenues. Hence, the grant of tax exemption must proceed only upon a valid basis. Okay, in the approval of the exemption of tax exemption, the absolute majority or the majority of all members of the Congress is required. So kapag magta-tax exempt tayo, since the sole responsibility is vested on the Congress because it's legislative in nature. Pag gagawa tayo ng exemption, may voting, no? May voting powers pa rin, no? Okay, so next is the non-diversification of tax collection. Okay, when we say non-diversification of tax collection should only be used only for the public purpose and it should never be diversified or used for public purpose. Mira, pakisulat naman yung name ko bago ko permahan dito. Thank you. Signature over printed name. Sulat mo na at permahan ko, ha? Ito. Tapos permahan ko, ha? Thank you. Okay, salamat. Okay, non-delegation of power of taxation. Parang nabanggit na ito kanina, no? We cannot delegate it. Okay, so again, it is vested on the Congress. Non-impairment of the jurisdiction of Supreme Court to review the cases. Notwithstanding the existence of Court of Tax Appeals. So we have the so-called Court of Tax Appeals, which is a special court. All cases involving taxes can be raised to and be finally decided by the Supreme Court of the Philippines. So, ibig sabihin, though we have a special court, still, no, the Supreme Court pa rin po ang magre-review ng ating cases pertaining to taxes. Okay? Court of Tax Appeals. Kasi kapag meron tayong mga criminal or civil cases, di ba? Court of Appeals. Meron tayong tinatawag na Court of Appeals. Kasi pag after dun sa mga lower court, let's say, Municipal Trial Court, MCT, Regional Trial Court, then we have Court of Appeals, and then we have Supreme Court for the purpose of taxation. So it's for Court of Tax Appeals, but still the Supreme Court has the power to review all tax cases, including taxes, no? Involving taxes, I mean. Okay. The requirement that appropriations, revenue, or tariff bills shall originate exclusively in the House of House of Representatives. But take note, class, that the Senate may propose or concur with amendments. So, since it is vested in the Congress, pwede namang mag-concur or mag-amend or mag-propose yung ating Senate. The delegation of taxing power to local government units. So I'm done with this. No, we already discussed this, that there is also, or the LGU also has the power on the taxing, or that has taxing power. Okay, next is the stages or aspects of taxation. So we have two. Okay, the first one is levy or imposition. Okay, what do we mean by that? Pwede nyo bang basahin? Na-print nyo na ba yung PDF? Parang anyone from the class, basahin nyo naman na. Wala? Wala kayong kopya?
Tapos na lang po.
Okay, sige. Mikey, please.
Levy or imposition. This process involves the enactment of a tax law by Congress, and it is called impact of taxation. It is also referred to as the legislative act in taxation.
Okay, thank you. So when we say levy or imposition, this is the legislative act. Okay? So first is the House of Representative and the Senate, no? So as mandated by the Constitution, tax bills must originate from the House of Representative. Each may however have their own versions of proposed law which is approved by both bodies, but tax bills cannot originate exclusively from the Senate. Just to So ibig sabihin, pag levy or imposition, dun palang gagawa. They will create tax laws. Okay, no? What are the matters, no? In determining or matters of legislative discretion in the exercise of taxation. So they have to determine what is the object of taxation. What do you think are the different objects of taxation? Anyone? Ano yung pwedeng maging object ng taxation or let's say subject ng taxation? Mira, pa-check kung napirmahan ko lahat bago may akyat. Properties. Tama? That's maybe an object of taxation. Paki-check na ito. Income. Okay, madaming klaseng income, di ba? Passive income. Okay, paki-akyat ulit kayo sa thank you. Okay. They have to determine what are the object of taxation. Next. Rate of tax or tax rate. Ilang percent? Next is to determine the purpose for the levy of which must be public use. For what purpose? Let's say the real property tax. What is the purpose of real property tax? Real property tax is for the purpose of special education fund. All real property taxes goes to special education fund. So, yun yung purpose niya. Income tax for national tax allocation. Business taxes also for national tax allocation. So kung ano yung mga i-define nilang tax na sisingilin, they have to define the purpose. What kind of tax is it? Okay, what are the different kinds? We have the income tax, the business tax, property tax, etc. Okay? Apportionment of tax between the national and the local government. So they have to define if it's tax through national, yun yung national government, yun yung sinasabi ko, taxes under the Bureau of Internal Revenue or the local government. Situs of taxation. When we say situs of taxation, what is it? It's a place of taxation. Okay, lugar, no? Situs of tax. And method of collection. How do we pay for it? Is it annually, monthly, quarterly, daily? O sobra yun, daily, no? Walang daily taxes. Okay? So, next. What's the second one? Can you please read the assessment of collection? John Francis de la Cruz.
Assessment and collection. The tax law is implemented by the administrative branch of the government. Implementation involves assessment or the determination of the tax liabilities of taxpayers and collection. This stage is referred to as incidence of taxation or the administrative act of taxation.
Okay, thank you. So when we say assessment of and collection, it involves the BIR or the local government unit. Kanina, imposition pa lang, no? It's the impact of taxation. They are the one creating it. Ngayon, ipapatupad na natin. So you have to assess and collect. And who has the authority in doing that? The BIR for national taxes and the LGUs for local government taxes. How this assessment goes on? Okay, ang assessment class sa LGU normally pinapa-assess kasi dun lang yun sa lugar mo. When it comes to national taxes, may mga revenue regulations tayo or RR na tinatawag or Revenue Memorandum Circular or RMC na tinatawag wherein nandun yung rate, nandun yung kung magkano, ano-ano, o yun yun, halimbawa, ano ang inclusive sa income tax, ano ang inclusive sa business tax, ano ang exempt. So yun, then you will compute. Actually, ang sistema natin sa BIR, it's a self-assessment. Self-assess mo yung taxes na babayaran mo. Tapos ibabayaran mo siya sa BIR. But subject to audit. That's assessment and collection, no? Ma-assess, tapos babayaran. So kung magkano yung earnings mo, yun yung iyong itatax. Ikaw ang gagawa nun, walang gagawang BIR para sa iyo nun, no? Dadating lang si BIR if they need to investigate if you are filing or if you are paying the correct taxes. Okay. Ma'am, paano po namin malalaman kung magkano ang babayaran namin? Through the RR or RMCs. Okay, so yun. Siguro in a later part, papasadahan ko din yun kung ano yung mga basic taxes tapos kung paano natin gagawin. Okay, next is the situs. Hindi pa. The national taxes. Ito, sample pa lang. Sample pala. National taxes versus the local taxes. So when we say national taxes, authority, it's an inherent power. Pag national, under local, it's a delegated power. Delegated to the local government unit. Okay. Nature, it's legislative in nature through enactment of tax laws by the Congress and the Senate. While the local taxes is legislative in nature through enactment of local ordinances by the local legislative branch. What is the process? Led by Congress yon, assessment collection, BIR and BOC. Nakakalimutan ko pala, Bureau of Customs, no? And for local, it's the legislative branch of the LGU. And for assessment and collection, it's the treasurer. It's a city treasurer or municipal treasurer for local taxes. Okay. These are the taxes administered by the BIR or paying or we pay through BIR. Income tax. So income, individual and non-individual. Estate tax and donors tax. In case of, pag sinabi nating donors, when you are nagdo-donate kapag estate din yung mga namatay na, may mga properties, mabayaran niya, may tax. O diba, nabuhay ka at namatay ka, may tax. Value-added tax, yan yung sinabi ni Ricky last time, yung nasa, yung value-added or yun yung amount na tinatax sa atin, kahit di mo masyadong ramdam, no? Pag bumili ka, sa supermarket, automatically, tingnan mo yung resibo mo, you have your value-added tax. Other percentage tax, yan yung sinasabi kong percentage tax, yan yung 3%. Excise tax, excise tax on tobacco, no? So, yun yung mga special products yan, petroleum, sugar, coconut, okay, marami yan, no? Kung ano-ano pang mga special taxes. General rule kasi class, lahat ng klaseng negosyo, they are subject to either value-added tax or percentage tax. Depende doon sa ceiling, yung 3 million nga, 3 million below and 3 million above. Meron tayong mga special products like what I mentioned, example, yung petroleum, coconut, sugar, may mga, yun yung excise. Another is yung excise tax, meron tayo yung cigarettes, cigarettes. Yan yung pinakamalalaking taxes, tsaka liquor, wine, yan. Ayan. Okay, next is documentary stamp tax. Yung documentary stamp tax, ginagamit yan for, sample yan na pwede nyo makita mamaya sa inyong transcript of records, nire-require nila ang documentary stamp tax. Ano pa? Saan pa ba nire-require yan? Sa yung affidavit, nagre-require yan. Hindi ko na alam ngayon kung magkano. Dati 35. Ngayon, dati lang, 10 ba? 15, 35 na yata ngayon. Okay? So, situs, this is the situs. When we say situs of tax, it's the place of taxation, no? Saan, it is the tax jurisdiction that has power to levy taxes upon tax object. Situs rules serves as frames or reference whether the tax object is within or outside the tax jurisdiction of the taxing authority. Business tax situs, saan natin, anong ibig sabihin nun? Saan ang place nito? Any idea? Pag business tax, where's the situs of business tax? Business are subject to tax in the place where the business is conducted. Okay? Kung nasaan. Let's say I have a business located in Baliwag. So, saan ako magbabayad ng business tax? In Baliwag. Okay? Illustration dito sa book. A taxpayer is involved in car dealership abroad and restaurant operation in the Philippines. So what do you think is between the two business? Ano yung subject to business tax? Ano ang subject sa business tax? Di yung restaurant. Okay? Ulitin ko ha. A taxpayer is involved in car dealership abroad. Yung isa abroad. Yung isa, restaurant operation in the Philippines. So, ano ang subject sa business tax in the Philippines?
Yung restaurant po.
Yes, yung restaurant. Kasi yun yung nasa Philippines. Okay? Now, income tax on services. Saan ang situs nito? Saan ang place nito? For a while ha, I need to talk to BIR. O, diba? Sakto sa subject natin. tapusin ko yung klase ko. Hello, okay, sige. Let's continue. Asan na tayo? Let's resume. Income tax on services. Oh, where is the situs of tax? Anyone?
Kung saan po na-rendered yung service.
Exactly. Kung saan na-render ang service. Okay? Illustration in the book, a foreign corporation leases a residential space to a non-resident Filipino citizen abroad. Okay? So the rent income will be exempt from Philippine taxation as the leasing service is rendered abroad. Paano kung sa Philippines na rendered? Taxable ba sa Pilipinas?
Opo.
Yes. Okay. Kung saan na-render yung service. How about what is the situs of tax, income tax situs on sale of goods? Ano? Saan? Of course, the place of... Sorry, may sumagot?
Kung saan po sila nakapag-sale ng goods po.
Okay, kung saan sila nakapag-sale ng goods. Yes, the gain on sale is subject to tax in the place of sale. While in China, a non-resident OFW citizen agreed with a Chinese friend to sell his diamond necklace to the latter. They stipulated that the delivery of item and the payment will be made a week later in the Philippines. The sale was consummated as agreed. So the contract of sale is consensual and is perfected by meeting of the minds. Diba? That's the meaning of contract. There should be meeting of minds by the contracting parties. The perfection of contract of sale is in China. So where is the situs? In China. Pero ang payment saan? Sa Philippines. Now, will this be taxable to the Philippines or not? Yung gain on sale? Hindi. Okay? Kasi, nagkaroon ng perfected contract in China. So, if we're referring to goods and services, kung saan yun na-render, kung saan yun saan nag-take place, no? Yung sale of goods. Property tax situs, saan yan?
Kung nasan po yung location nila.
Exactly. Kung nasan yung location ng property. Okay. Property in Bulacan, babayaran sa Zambales. Pwede? Hindi, di ba? Siyempre sa Bulacan. Okay, parang narinig ko may nagsalita, hindi ko lang naririnig masyado. Okay, an overseas Filipino worker has a residential lot in the Philippines. Wala siya, di ba? Kasi OFW siya. Obliged ba siya magbayad nung kanyang property tax in the Philippines despite his absence?
Yes po.
Yes po.
Dahil po yung
Yes, kasi ang location ay nasa Philippines.
Philippines.
Okay. So yung mga nasa abroad, no, may mga property sa Philippines, they need to pay their tax in the Philippines. Personal tax situs. Place of
Residence po.
residence. Okay. Place of residence. Okay, yung sample dito, hindi ko alam ano to. Sudanese? Hindi ako familiar. Ano yun? Saan country kaya yun, no? Ahmed Lofty is a Sudanese studying medicine in the Philippines. Ahmed will pay personal tax in the Philippines even if he is an alien because he is residing in the Philippines. Later class, as we discuss income taxation, meron yun meron tayong classification as to resident citizen, non-resident citizen, resident alien, non-resident alien. So, pag sinabing alien, hindi yan yung UFO na lumilipad sa kalangitan, ha? Yan yung mga other than not citizen. So, ibig sabihin other than Filipinos. So, yun. Paano ba nagiging citizen? Pag citizen ka dito, if you are residing here, diba? Filipino ka. Pero yung iba kasi nandito sa Pilipinas, dito na nagre-reside, yung mga Chinese, diba? Bombay, yan, yung mga yan. If you are a resident, if you're a resident alien, all your income should be subject to tax in the Philippines, yung mga in-earn. So, may mga rulings tayo later na i-discuss about it. So, kailangan nating ma-identify. Ito, importante ito. Please take it on, please take this, no, itong titles of taxation. So, tandaan nyo na ito, no? Business, kung saan yung business, tama. Services, if where the services are rendered. For goods, or the place of the sale, no? Place of sale. For property, yung location ng property. And for personal tax items is the place of residence. So I think dito tayo mag-end this afternoon, no? For the remaining fundamental doctrines of taxation, please read it, no? Ang hindi ko na lang na-discuss dito is the double taxation. Saglit na lang yun so that by next week we can proceed on the next chapter. So please read ahead, no?